Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to review Star Trek Nemesis. Now I want to say this is 4 years on from the previous Star Trek film, which is Star Trek Insurrection. Prior to this, they were released every 2 years, I want to say, from 94, 96, and 98. So now we're in the 2000s. So with that comes an abundance of CGI, like a lot of other films. But Funnily enough, I felt like the CGI here, like there were some space battles, and if any of you guys are a fan of if you're aware, Star Wars: Revenge of the Sith from 2005, they have some excellent space battles, especially at the start, and it was reminiscent, like it brought excitement just as that scene. That's exactly what I thought. I thought, wow, like this is a space battle, and it isn't even the height of like CGI use. And I'm not even sure they had like Industrial Light and Magic helping them at this point because they were probably working on Star Wars themselves. So I'm not even sure who did it, but it invoked that same excitement in me. Okay, Nemesis. I think this is like the most not necessarily controversial film, but it's certainly um, the one that's least praised. I didn't look at the criticism or reviews before watching this film, but um, afterwards I did have a little look online, and but even whilst watching, I didn't feel that same spark as watching the previous three. Um, like Insurrection is my favorite. Um, then First Contact, then Generations, then this one probably. Um, Maybe it's the tie between Generations and Nemesis. But it just didn't feel weighty enough. It didn't feel like there was enough. It didn't feel lofty enough. I think it felt like it wanted to. I think like the people that wrote the script and the producers, I've obviously seen this as the last one and made no money. They went for it, but I don't know. It just really didn't work. And like sometimes I can like condone certain things and like I stick up for a lot of things, whereas and like the general consensus is that it's not great. Now I'm probably on that side that like I'm not in love with this one. I really like. I mean, there's things to like about it, which I'll get into. But I mean, okay, so Tom Hardy plays the main villain, which was like really what's the word like. I watched him growing up and I watched him in other films that I love, and it was just really like it was really weird seeing him in this one being so young and seeing him in like a sci-fi film. It's just really uh, yeah, it felt like an out of body experience. I know he had a hard time after this film was a didn't make a big splash in the ocean for him, and he was affected by it. But yeah, no, it's not nothing to do with his performance. It's just weird seeing him in the sci-fi role. I think he held his own. I mean, he's playing like the clone of Picard, which the Romulans made years ago. But because like there was a change in councils or change in government on Romulan, the government they decided to scrap like the idea of using him as an android. And they like threw him into like poverty or yeah, they just threw him in the bin really, and then like so he grew up. There was a bit like a Bane story going on where he grew up with like certain people and he had companions there, and he like this viceroy dude that he like took as his main man from this other species, which brings to mind really great makeup design for his viceroy friend, like his right hand man. So yeah, then they plot their own thing to strike back. Take revenge. Basically, it's another revenge story. But obviously, being Tom Hart, being the clone of Picard, he needs Picard's blood. That's like a subplot that gets revealed. And I mean, yeah, that works. That gets him closer to like it makes the like the confrontation more personal, and it ups the stakes because like obviously Shinzon, which is Tom Hardy's character, Shinzon is we learn progressively more that like his good boy facade that he's putting on, this gentle peacemaker facade that he's putting on, so slowly like crumbles away, and it just leaves us with this like hateful man that like needs Picard's blood to live, otherwise he's just gonna like decay. um so I guess yeah, makes the revenge more personal. um Yeah, the makeup was great. Like I said, the CGI was really good for some of those scenes. It made me excited. We get an opening scene that's like very like intriguing. Where like there's a Romulan council meeting going on. We're not aware of any of these characters particularly, I don't think, but like they're all poisoned, and it's like really great start. It's like, okay, this is like intriguing. This is a way to start a film. Um, yeah, and obviously, yeah, Shinzon's doing. And then we cut to like the Star Trek, the Next Generation crew, and they've had some really good intros in these films. It's all really quite feel good, isn't it? This time Riker Riker's getting married to Deanna Troy. So like after all these years, the Worf thing never happened because obviously Worf went to Deep Space Nine and he went to be forge his own career. So she was her and Riker got to finally get together. That's all nice. Um, a lot of cameos in this film. Janeway, I'm not sure if she's a captain or yeah. There's many other cameos. I'm not aware of these characters yet. If you're like a big Trek fan, you'd know all these characters that pop up. Because I think they had plans for other characters, and some people turned it down. Some people were on other shows, so they've done the most they could with cameos and whatnot. And to make it work for people that are not watching the other spin-offs like Enterprise and Voyager and Deep Space Nine. Yeah, so yeah, the main problem is the story really. The scenes are all well done, I suppose. There's a lot of dark scenes, but there is one really poor scene. And the cinematography, I think it's the cinematography. It's like atrocious. It's like, I mean, it's a fun scene, so it's sad to say that, but like Data, Picard, and maybe someone else are like riding through this desert planet, on it in a dune buggy of all things, and like they're riding around having fun, and they end up finding like Data's like clones of Data, like a head and an arm. This is to drive the plot forward, by the way, but the scene is just it's horrible to look at. Um, but yeah, they find like a Data's head. Wait, is that? Yeah, that is this film. Yeah, sorry, I've watched so many of them. Yeah, they find Data's head. They bring him back to the Enterprise. Geordie has a look at him. They turn him on, and there's this whole like there's a weight to that storyline, isn't there? Because it's about like who is what live are all lives equal? Like do you have the right to like dictate how this like because he's gonna put in like his own memories to speed the new robot up? Is that like ethical and stuff? So questions like that are brought up. Um, and the creature, Data's this clone of Data is obviously it's actually like um like a tool used by Shinzon because Shin is actually Shinzon's like android that he's made, and eventually though Picard gets taken as he always does onto Shinzon. I think it's Shinzon's ship, and Shinzon also calls back the clone of Data, thinking that he's now gonna get the clone back and then take the information from the clone that Geordie put in the clone and take that and then use that to his Shinzon's own advantage. But lo and behold, it's actually Data that's masquerading as the clone. Um, Helped Picard escape. Um, and they go off. They have this really good. They're flying like obviously like a foreign ship, like one of Shinzon ships, and it's all like in a foreign language, and it's Picard and Data, and it's a really fun scene trying to escape. Again, some really exciting scenes mixed with CGI there. Um, yeah, and it's fun obviously how like Data and Picard are always off together on their own like adventure, trying to really get at the main antagonist, and it always works with those two. They work great. Brent Spiner, or him and Patrick Stewart, they work really well together. You'd imagine they'd be like close friends, or after all, this is like you know we're talking like 15 years now that they've known each other. Um, yes, so yeah, I mean, there's some cool like to speak of good about like the whole Shinzon thing. There's some like foreboding. There's like cool dark shots of him like in his first introduction when he faces down like the Enterprise crew. You can't see his face, and then he appears, and they're all shocked, and he's like indifferent. Um, and Moments like that are cool. But yeah, overall, it just doesn't work. Like it's just not enough. There's not enough weight in the script. Um, let's see. Yeah, I guess there was some finality with the Romulans and like Starfleet, specifically the Enterprise. They make peace at the end because the Romulans help out. Um, I guess they wouldn't have helped out if Shinzon wasn't such a problem for them. But yeah, um, no, see, I haven't got much to say about this film. I wasn't very all for it. I mean, the ending though, the ending is big. Did they have to do it? I mean, it is the last one. They didn't know that, but yeah, this is a huge ending. It's a Spock ending basically from the originals. Um, so before I speak about the actual ending and the death, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in Star Trek, and something I will never forget, and it's incredible, and I never even conceived that possible. But Data, in an act of like pure heroism, him and Geordie work together to Data needs to get over to Picard basically to help him out because him and Shinzon are going at it for a final confrontation. This is, this is the big standoff. Um, but Data, like Geordie opens like the I don't know, anti gravity doors or sections of the ship, so then Data can like fly out. And obviously he's not human; he's an android, so he doesn't breathe, so like he can withstand the vacuum of space. Although there was a moment in one of these films where like the Enterprise crashes open and like things fly out and stuff, and then no one dies. It was really weird. But anyway, in this case, like the weight of the scene was there and the stakes were there. So Data flies out, and it is the coolest thing I've ever seen in Star Trek. He just flies out as if like this is some Clark Kent stuff, and goes after Picard, and then Geordie shuts it after him. But guys, that is the scene to see in Star Trek if you're looking for excitement. I've got especially if you're like into Data as much as into Data as I am. Okay, and then the death. Data dies. Um, yeah, he explodes on a ship. It lets Picard get away after Picard faces down Shinzon. Shinzon is this great moment where he's dead and he's stuck on a spear, and it's reminiscent of like I think this old film or a book that was written like a very long time ago, where like the enemy, I think like yeah, the son in this book, not anything to do with Star Trek. It's like an historical book, famous book. The father, like a father faces down the son, and like the father beats the son. I think that's how it goes, and then the son is like stuck on the edge of the spear, and then in an act of like last finality and just to look the enemy in the eyes, he like pulls the spear. You've seen it in other films, but like apparently this is like one of the earliest incantations of that, or the earliest workings of that type of scene, and he pulls himself closer to his father and he looks in his eyes for the final time. And Shinzon does that here to Picard. I mean, because they're clones of each other, right? So that's really cool, and obviously Patrick Stewart does a wonderful job of like being like just mortified by this all. And anyway, yeah, so Data sacrificed himself, and yeah, like I said, it's like Spock's death, but this time we won't see whatever the plans were for that for the next film. And that hurts me, really does. Data, um but obviously they set up having him again. They have like a little like safety net because obviously they have the clone of him now. um and there was questions around the film whether like in the films or in the plot whether like are any two people the same, because obviously now they've caught Data up with all of his memories, but it doesn't seem like this new Data has his memories. He still seems like just like in factory settings, so he'd have to learn everything again. um I mean, I'm not. I mean, look, who am I to say which character should die and what? Obviously, he had 15 years of great character development. Well, you could say that. Sometimes he still don't know what fun is and stuff. There's times like that where his character changes based on who's writing him or whatever. Even probably the same writers. But no, overall, he had a great character arc. And I mean, if he's gonna die in the final motion picture, then he does. And he went out like a badass. Um, and there's this sweet moment at the final scene where Picard asks Data like a question, maybe on like something that he's like always done in the holodeck on the series, something that like only the original Data would know. And then like the clone Data responded by like humming along to a song that Data really loved, or like a play that he was in the series or one of the films or in this film. So obviously, like Picard gives a smile because he knows that his friend's still there. But like, is it really different? I'm not in the right headspace to answer that. Is it the same Data? It's not. Of course, it's not. You have to experience something yourself, and you become your own person. There's no two in humans it's different, isn't it? Because we all, although people share the same DNA and whatnot, there's always differences. I don't know how far that goes with robots, but no, they're not the same. But it's nice that they ended on that little thing for Patrick Stewart, I guess. But yeah, that was Insurrection, and that was the end of my 4-film run of Star Trek Next Generations films. It was a wonderful journey. This is probably my least favorite with Generations. Like I said, big up Insurrection. Thank you very much. Oh, this is Nemesis. I'm getting all confused, but yeah, big up Insurrection. And this was Star Trek Nemesis. Thank you very much.